everybody. I'm Dr. Cindy, your host of the Positively Altered podcast. I am a chiropractic internist and nutritionist and the author of the book called Positively Altered, Finding Happiness at the Bottom of a Chemo Bag. On our podcast, we talk about all things with a health spin, absolutely no filter, and we're going to have a little bit of fun. Today, I have an amazing guest because I know there have been times I have been dubbed Wonder Woman. I think I have the chest for Wonder Woman. I'm not so sure about the rest of the attributes, but I know there are days I wake up and actually want to be Wonder Woman. Well, my next guest has actually been Mr. America. So if you've ever aspired for a fun title like that, go grab your cape, maybe something to drink and a comfy seat. We're going to be right back after we take a listen to our sponsors, because they're super important to me, with our next guest.
Hello, my name is Heather Lord, and I am the COO of Professional Health Products. Cutting corners is an all too common practice in the dietary supplement industry. When my father founded Professional Health Products, he sourced the cleanest, most biologically active ingredients from around the globe. Today, that commitment remains, which is why the finest healthcare practitioners, like Dr. Cindy, have trusted us for more than 40 years. We oversee the entire process in our manufacturing facility, from sourcing and formulation to manufacturing and labeling. Today, we offer over 300 unique products that can be tailored to the nutritional and homeopathic needs of each individual. Most recently, we launched a proprietary genetic test, allowing our practitioners to get even more dialed in to their patients' health. To learn more about Professional Health Products, please talk to your practitioner or visit our website at phpltd.com.
Today, your life is going to be altered. I'm Dr. Cindy.
Welcome to Infinity. We have worked hard to create an electronic claims website that is simple and user-friendly. This is the public side. You can log into your personal web portal here. This is your dashboard. You can personalize it to your liking here. Our main focus has been to allow you to submit and edit claims as easy as possible. You will find our claims editor and claims processing is simple to use and straightforward. Our quick action bar is where you can find your most important information. Most of these icons will take you directly to the claims the number represents. You can easily view if you have any messages in your inbox of any unread alerts by looking for these blue numbers. To view the rest of our training videos to get the most of your Infinity experience, click this icon. We hope you find this web portal simple and easy to use. Thanks for letting us serve you.
I'm Dr. Cindy. Who wouldn't want to join me for the Positively Altered podcast? Welcome back. I'm Dr. Cindy, and I am so excited to introduce you to Mr. America, 1998. Chris Zaino, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, what's up, Dr. Cindy? Thanks so much for having me, and thank you for everybody who's watching. I'm just excited today. This is going to be a great time, and everybody's going to get a lot of value. So this probably will be one you want to listen to a couple of times.
Oh, we'll make sure we get the downloads, over and over and over again. We'll keep feeding people. I gotta tell you, what a cool title, right? Like, is that just not a fun thing to be able to say I was Mr. America?
It's like one of the coolest things. Just think when I was a little kid, I would wear superhero pajamas, and my inspiration was my dad. So I always want to be like my dad. He had a really good build and got me my first gym set. But to think when I started at 13, that at 21. Be winning Mr. America, and then later on at 38, the Mr. Universe title. No, yeah, it's everything. I wish for anyone that they're in a situation where they get to win something, where there's only one winner. There's a quenching. There's such a amazing feeling that you work so hard and you didn't get a participation trophy, like you were the final one or the one. It's so addicting, and it really spills off into every area of your life.
Oh my God, I can appreciate that. So as a kid, I had a sister, and we used to take my parents' towels and wrap them around our necks and pretend to be Batman and Robin, because we grew up with that, that TV show. And then I was fortunate enough when I was in college, I actually fell in love with powerlifting. So I do know what it is like to place first, but without the tiny little bathing suit and the tan. We didn't need that in that sport,
No, I get it. Yeah, no, but wasn't that a good feeling? Like, tell me, go back to that feeling. Like, how did it feel that you trained so hard all that time, all the discipline, and then you left as like that? You were the top for that day. Like, tell me how you felt.
Yeah, it was that. It was I was Mrs. America, right? Or
Yeah.
Miss America at the time. Wasn't married at the time. Miss America at the time. It's a phenomenal um feeling, but not just in that moment, Chris. I think it's something we
Mm,
carry with us for the rest of our life, right?
yeah.
To push us through other types of adversity or projects or
Mhm.
aspirations to go, I want that again, right? I want that feeling.
100 million%.
Yeah, it's so cool. So, everybody's kind of got a story, and I love that your dad inspired you and an amazing role model. But like, you've got a story before this, right? In your 20s, something that happened
Mm,
to you that was pretty life changing. I'd love
yeah.
to share that with our audience.
Great. So it was right after the Mr. America. So I was 21, and so when you had that, I was at the University of Central Florida. So I just graduated, had my degree in exercise phys with a minor in psychology. Right, and so I'm working at Universal Studios as well. So I got hired to do cover a magazine. So my resume at the time helped because I was the trainer nutritionist for the whole Xena Warrior Princess Productions, and it was. I mean, just think, you're 22 years old. What a cool job! So you're on that set. Everybody has to look good, half naked, and they would do most of the filming in New Zealand. So you're going to go to New Zealand and then back to Universal Studios. So I thought, isn't it funny when you're young, you think like, oh, I guess it's going to be this way forever, right? So I like, this is awesome. I have it made. Then I would say about a year later, and this, I'd started having some digestion issues. No big deal. Like, things are just going through me. Okay. But, I'm going more and more and more. And then it's to the point where I'm starting to lose weight. And we just think, every young kid thinks it's just going to go away. Then I started bleeding. Then I'm bleeding 15, 16 times a day. And now my whole life. So when you have a physical issue, people don't realize, like, you cannot have a physical issue without it affecting the spiritual and the emotional being of you. So the physical now becomes an emotional issue, because now it's like, I'm not eating after a certain time because I have to be somewhere. Or if I did go someplace, I had to see where the bathrooms were just in case I needed to use it. And it kept on getting worse and worse. And like a lot of people today, I played Dr. Google. So I go on Google and I type in, blood and stool. So what do you think the first thing that comes up with?
Colon cancer.
Yeah, right there. My dad died at 21. So just think, at 21, there was my father passed away, won the Mr. America, all these things happen. And I did something really immature. Is when I saw that, I did something called disassociation. I just turned my head, thinking out of mind, out of sight. But if you just don't get to the problem, it gets worse. So it got worse. Then it got to the point. I remember one day I was at like a TJ Maxx. So I went in there and did my usual. Went there, have to check the bathrooms. They were under construction. So I'm like, hey, listen, where are the bathrooms at? They're like, well, we're fixing them. Just go outside of Sports Authority. So what happens is, just the thought of not having the security to go to the bathroom makes you want to go to the bathroom. And so I'm trying to walk out of there. And I just, because it was just such a burning, cramping pain, then I wondered, that was the first time, I lost my bowels in public. And
Mm.
what's, and just think, imagine 40 people around you, you're losing your bowels in public, but it's not like it's just mucus, it's blood. And then you could see the horror on people's faces, but yet they feel bad. So was this such a rock bottom moment with me? Now, not a year ago, I was on the cover of the magazines, had this title. So every part of me was stripped. Like, my identity of who I was gone. So I ran out the loading dock, or the back of the building. And that day I went to the doctor, the hospital, and they said, we know what you got. You have an incurable terminal disease called ulcerative colitis. We're going to put you on these drugs right away. So they're giving me prednisone and all these harsh medications. And I'm getting crazy. I'm getting addicted to Xanax and sleeping pills because I got to take those because of the prednisone. And then I'm taking off label medications that don't even, they're just to fight other things. Now I'm getting Remicade infusions, and they want to give me like anti-DNA drugs to shut down my immune system permanently. And I went from about 230 pounds, which I'm probably right now, down to 168 pounds in 3 months.
Wow.
And it was brutal. Now I'm just so scared, so fearful. Nothing's working. But I was a kid who went to school, and I just kind of obeyed what people thought, right? Okay, you tell me to do it, I'll do it. And they're like, listen, so everybody's watching. Ulcerative colitis is when it's an autoimmune disease where your immune system is attacking the lower colon. So it's ulcerating anyway, like you're literally destroying yourself. Now, in the upper intestines or the upper colon, that's called Crohn's disease. And it's possible that the ulcerative colitis could expand into the small intestine. So now I had ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease. And they said, listen, we have to remove your colon. We're going to do it in a week. So I'm like, oh, so all the pressure. I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's what you got to do. And they said, you're going to have a colostomy bag for the rest of your life. You'll be on $6,000 worth of medication. We're sorry to say that you're sterile. You'll never be able to have children at all. And we got to do this in a week. So I scheduled to see my mom. So my mom lives in Sarasota, Florida. So I flew there to see my mom. And my mom's a prayer warrior. Okay. So she sends out the email. We've all gotten that email, that prayer email, right? So, and I challenge everybody there. When you got that prayer email, what did you do with it? I looked at it. Maybe I even said a little prayer and hit delete, right? So my anatomy teacher from 10th grade in high school, Dr. Faraccio, says, listen, when Chris comes to town, I want to see him. So I'm there visiting my mom. My anatomy teacher from 10th grade shows up. He's like, listen, I want you to go see my doctor. He's a corrective care chiropractor. It's going to change your life. And I'm like, first in my mind, I'm like, I'm not into witchcraft, so I'm like, why the hell? And I was like, well, how does that make sense? Like, how is a massage muscle person going to help this incurable terminal disease? And just like anybody else trying to help you or anybody, you're like, okay, well, I appreciate you, but I've tried everything. And then he comes back to me. He's like, well, you didn't try everything, because if you tried everything, you would have had your health. And sometimes we don't realize how hopeless we become. We don't realize that we become this victim. We don't realize that we shut out, we actually fall prey to the belief that there's nothing more that can be done. And when he said that, and that's why I tell people, pay attention to the music you hear, the movies you watch, because there might be something, one line that might just open up your eyes. So I woke up for a little bit and said, well, you know what? Shit, he's right. Like, I couldn't have tried everything. So that gave me enough energy to say, okay, well, I'll go see this guy. So he takes me to his chiropractor, who is operating out of his house. So this is not helping much for me. And I'm like expecting dream catchers and all these weird things. And when I went in there, he told me a simple truth. He took pictures of my spine that no one did. And I went to the best. And of course, I went to the best of all these hospitals, nothing to do. And he sat me down and he told me the truth of life. And it was like Dr. Seuss style. I could not. It was irrefutable. Like, the brain controls everything. Yes, you cut your head off, what happens? Well, you die. Like, I couldn't, it was done so simple, but I couldn't say BS on it. And then when I went back and looked at my x-rays of my spine, I had a big curvature in my lower spine that I didn't know I had. And I never had back pain. And I had a lot of damage in this first bone of the neck, protecting your brainstem and vagal tone. Didn't know that. And I saw it. So now I'm seeing a blind spot that I don't know about. I'm like, okay, well, what am I going to get better? Because that's all we want to do. We just want to get better. He's like, well, as long as your body is in that condition and these things are going on, it's not in the environment to be able to heal itself the way it was created to. And then he points at me. He had horrible bedside manner. He goes, but when you choose to correct your problem that you have that's affecting your life and then bring it to the environment, then it'll be in the environment to be able to heal itself. He's like, but the day and the hour you're asking me, he's like, that's not up to me, because that's between you and your body. But he's like, I will tell you, you will get better as long as you never quit on yourself, no matter what. And Dr. Cindy, that was the most honest, real answer anybody ever told me, because I was used to this. This drug didn't work, we'll do this drug. That didn't drug, we'll do this drug. So it was drug after drug after drug, then surgery after surgery, and nothing was working. So at least he was like, yeah, that was honest. And so there was that little intuition in me that says, okay, like, I'll go this route. And I started getting adjusted. And I like to tell people, like, I wish I could tell you in a week I was better. No, I was bleeding massively. And every day I'm being reminded of a thing I don't want. And then 2 months in, it's like my weight's stabilizing. 3 months in, I'm off the medication. 4 months in, the blood is fully gone. 5 months, and slowly but surely I'm gaining weight. And within 7 months, let me tell you, that's a lifetime when you're scared and you're suffering. My body healed itself from an irreversible, incurable terminal disease called ulcerative colitis.
It's amazing. You say a couple things that
Yeah.
made me think about something really important, right? And that is, in our world of health or ill health, people think they have done everything and tried everything. And I always say there's always something that can be done. Always. Doesn't mean it works, right? Sometimes we try lots of things that are unsuccessful, but for people to say I've tried everything, been everywhere, done everything, and to throw their hands up makes me actually very sad, because there are people with new ideas and right and whatnot. I also think it's really interesting because you made the comment that you didn't want this. I walked through Hodgkin's lymphoma 10 years ago. I didn't want that either. but I'm so eternally grateful actually for the gifts that it brought me. How do you feel about, this illness, this disease, and was it something in retrospect now you're actually grateful for?
Oh, Dr. Cindy, you nailed it on the head. And this is the reason. So if you guys are watching this, watch how I'll back up this statement. Probably the greatest thing you could do is get in front of people and tell them your story, even if you're not at the end of your story. So I had this testimony, I had this experience. So everything I do in life, I have to have a personal experience with. So chiropractic changed my life. Went to school to become a chiropractor. And then I try to do everything school told me to do. I wore the white coat. I did I spoke very high educational terminology, zero, nothing out of it. Then one day, Dr. Cindy, I was invited to talk at the Rotary Club. And here in Houston, it's filled with neurosurgeons and oil people. And so I had this imposter syndrome being like, how am I going to impress these people? So I forgot all my crutches. I forgot my PowerPoint. I forgot the book I read out of with all my research. I forgot all the blinky shiny objects. So I'm sitting in my car. It's 108 degrees. I'm sweating and I'm going to flake. I'm flaking. I'm not just not going to show up. Then something hit in my mind. And I said this, no one could call bullshit on my story. Like no one, Dr. Cindy, could call BS on your story. So I went in there and I just told them my story like that, raw and real. And that was the first time, I got a standing ovation. And that was the first time people came up to me and say, if I pay you now, can I secure my appointment? I didn't know you could do prepays for appointments. So in that moment, I realized wait, telling my story opens up light, connects with people, and allows people to have hope. And Dr. Sina, I started doing talks like that. That was the sole way I got, patients, and we built one of the largest practices in the world. But watch this. Before we go back to that, if you want to delve into it, in the process, and I didn't find out this 2 years later, Dr. Cindy, I realized that every time I told my story, and every time I spoke in front of people and told them I shit my pants in public, and every time I opened up my chest, I realized that the ulcerative colitis was never mine. It was an experience I got gifted to go through that changed the entire journey and course of my life. Do you think I would have been a chiropractor? It wouldn't have been 10,000th on my list if you told me. But I went through this journey or this experience, and then going through that experience evolved me and changed me and developed skills that I never would have had anyway. And because of that, it trajected me not only to a life of healing, of love, to family, everything I was told I would never be able to have. I've gotten that and more. But I realized the greatest part of my healing, Dr. Cindy, was not that I had no more symptoms. The greatest part of my healing is when I realized what seemed like the most darkest, miserable time of my life was absolutely the greatest, most beautiful blessing. And to be able to change the story on that and to change the target and to reframe a time in your life, no matter how bad it is, and to see it as a blessing and something that expanded you, I think that is one of the greatest moments you can have in your life.
Yeah, when I was challenged, when I self-diagnosed, by the way, I that's a little weird to sit across from your own table and tell yourself that you have cancer. And it was interesting. I remember having lunch with a friend of mine. Her name was Wendy. And I said, Wendy, I have cancer. And she said, no, you don't. And I go, no, I do. I have all the documentation showed. She said, no, you don't have it. She said, stop owning it, experience it and walk through it. And those words, and I've passed those on a million times since, was my life-changing moment in that experience of, again, it was an experience, right? And I could choose to make and take from it what I wanted and needed versus falling victim to something that I was going to own in the beginning and I never owned it. And, I think for most of us that walk through that, it is such a hard thing, right? So hard mentally to take that path of learning and gratitude when we're handed something really pretty crappy. So I commend you for that. It's hard and I get it, but it's life altering when you do it.
And you're absolutely right. Like I tell people, well, you're just such a positive person. I'm like, oh no, I was not a positive person. I was scared. I was freaked out. I was skeptical, and I was like, but I had to let people know is the body works by a set of laws, and like gravity does not care what you believe or not. If I jumped off a building and said I don't believe in gravity, gravity's like, well, sorry. So like when you're at least I was going towards the laws of life of healing and allowing the body to heal naturally because I went through that. So even if I was skeptical and wasn't in the happiest mood, just to see that and but looking back, I saw that, that whole entire time, the frustration, the anxiety, like just as you went through, it really made you, it created a hero's journey in your life that took you to a place you never thought possible. And then, it started a whole entire new chapter in my life.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty fun what you're doing. It's interesting when I look at your website, and I love it. It's beautiful. So everybody's going to check it out, and we'll give everybody the details at the end. But it's fascinating. Before even your name, it says 0% secret identity, 100% hero.
Yeah.
I've never seen that before. It's really
Yeah.
powerful. Talk to me about that and the Stallion Project and how you're taking
Yeah.
that one sentence and helping others to become 100% hero.
So until about 7 years old, when you were a child, you were creative. You had wild imaginations. You lived in vertical time, not horizontal time. When's a kid want to do something? Now, right? They're very present. Kids are super forgiving. They're very confident. They have self-esteem. They're very like they could take boxes and make wars out of them. Like they live in such this beautiful imagination with hope and forgiveness and wonderful things. And the biggest question they asked all the time, if you're a parent, is what? Why? 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 They're always searching for truth. And that got squashed. And like at 6 or 7 years old, we were put into schools. We're told what to do. We get made fun if we raise our hands. So we started, instead of being creative and little heroes, we started just becoming controlled. So it started happening. We were enforced with the subordinated values of teachers and preachers and dogmas and family members and tradition passed down. That tradition can be fear mongered tradition. So by the time you find yourself, when I was in my 20s, I had a list of things and expectations that I needed to fill for everybody else. The media, the movies, like, right? I graduate from school, I got to get a career. From a career, I got to get married, I got to have kids, got a wife. So we're doing all these things and we're checking off the boxes. So I found myself, this was in practice. So had this massive practice and finding everything, I checked every box off. However, deep down inside, I was feeling depressed and I couldn't tell anybody. So a lot of times for people, you have these issues going on and you don't have an outlet to talk to, because I was grateful, but I was still depressed. There was something in me that wanted more. And I realized I was just grieving my potential. And then looking back, I'm like, I'm living this secret identity. I'm living out the expectations that everybody else wanted in my life, but I never took the time to court myself. And what I mean by court yourself is like, I don't even know who the hell I am. Like everything I was doing is because other people taught me or told me to do it. But like, I never sat down. I was 33 years old. I'm like, what is my truth? What do I really like? What is the passion I want to do? Yeah, I did this because my colleagues think I should do this, but I started going through this. What do you call it? Like when you just get to a point in your life where you start clean slating and saying, well, what's my truth? So I realized like a lot of us are living the secret identity. And in the secret identity, it's just the less than watered down version of your truth. And when you're not going towards your truth, you're going to have these feelings of insecurity or depression or sadness because you're wearing other people's clothes, basically metaphorically, like you're not able to be the true expansive version of yourself. So that's when I started the I Am Hero project. That's when we went into that, where it was just like liberating the hero inside of us. Like I'm going to be 0% secret identity. And it was so scary because in your 30s, when you want to kind of be like, this is who I am, we've built a good life. Things are good. Maybe relationships are great. And like some of that is maybe not true to you. And some of that may have to go, relationships, etc. And it's so easy to say, you know what? I'm comfortable right now. So we start to settle for comfortable versus the greatness. The cave we fear to enter becomes, in that is the treasure we truly seek. So we choose the life of comfort. Money's good, we're doing good, versus having the experiences of going into the unknown, creating whatever it is your purpose was created to be, and experiencing the fulfillment of being you and living your life the way you're created put here. So that was that whole hero concept versus secret identity.
Yeah, it's funny. I think that whole childhood thing is interesting. Kids say whatever they want to say, right?
Yeah.
They do whatever they want to do until they're squashed. And then, as I find as I age, you get to this age where people are like, I don't give a shit anymore, right? What people think of me, right? But there's these decades in between that we lose all of that, right? From the no
Mhm.
filter, do say what we want to that we don't actually care anymore.
Mhm.
I don't know. Are there some good sort of tools of the trade tricks that advise people where if we're stuck in those decades of we now worry about what everybody thinks about us instead of being our true authentic self, how do we get out of that rut?
The tools are simple. To do them is different. The first thing, there is a code. The code is you have to stop lying to yourself. Like really stop lying to yourself. And we do not realize how much lies we tell ourselves and tell people. Like you said, Cindy, how you doing? I'm doing great. No, you're not. What's going on? Like we have to tell the truth. So none of this works without telling the truth. And sometimes the truth is really rough. And so the truth doesn't set you free. The facts do. So what are the facts? So this is the facts. What do I want? What do I really, not what my mom wants, not what this person wants, not what Dr. Cindy wants. Like in order to be free, I got to be me. What is what I want? And I have to be truthful about it. Like when I tell you what I want, I cannot be influenced by, well, they'll feel bad or what is this person going to think about? Like, what are the facts? Do not lie. So everything stands with being true. And then when you're truthful, then we have to understand the feeling you have towards those facts because we have to be raw with our emotions because usually our emotions come from triggers and the triggers are the things that keep us in this karma cul-de-sac where we, like sometimes I sabotage myself because I'm triggered. So the trigger is something that has feelings behind it. So I got to work on that trigger and find the story. We usually have these stories from the past that keep getting triggered. So we start doing the same bullshit over and over again. And we keep going around in a circle versus what is my truth? Where do I mess up? Here's the facts. Here's how I feel about it. These are my triggers. And that's the only thing that's going to get us to transform. But we must know what we want, then why, then when, then the how comes. Everybody's concerned about the how. Well, Dr. Cindy, how am I going to do that? You're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Well, first, what do you want? Why? Because the why becomes the driving fire. When? Anytime we put a time constraint on something, we get shit done. If I'm going on vacation Sunday, Saturday night, we're getting the most stuff done, right? So like we put a time constraint and then the how comes because if we knew how to do something, Dr. Cindy, we would have already done it. So we have to have grace that I don't know how to do it, but if I know what I want and why I want it and when, then at least I have all the nutrients I need to move forward into the unknown. And through that process of apprenticing or finding people like you, Dr. Cindy, who's went through it, and I could help, go on that journey to get to that fulfillment.
Yeah, I actually think the how is the easy part because there's so
Yeah.
many resources to get the how, right? Like if I don't know how to cook, I can go take a class, I can read
Yeah.
a book, right? The how is actually simple. But to your point, I think most of us don't have our whys.
Mm-hmm.
We're really missing that. The why that, we get up in the morning and the why we want to do the things we do and why we have the passion that we have
So, Dr. Cindy,
it's
what's your
hard.
why, and what's Julie's why, and what's your why for this podcast? And I'm not putting you on the spot because, like,
No,
you
I love
clearly have it. Like, so I want someone to see what a why really looks like because a why is something that when you think about it, it gives me a visceral response. It gives me goosebumps. So, for you to stick in as long as you guys have done
yes.
and go through this and do this out of the loving of your heart, like, there's got to be a deep why. I know you guys do a podcast, but explain to people why you do it.
Right. So the why is actually very simple for me, right? There's adversity that's going to get thrown at all of us for the rest of our lives. It's coming. And the why is to learn how to open your arms and welcome it in and find the humor and take the challenges and learn the growth and turn it into a fun positive versus running down that rabbit hole of victim, right? So it's
Mhm.
exactly what the title of the podcast says. It's to become positively altered in some way from every life experience you have, whether it can be listed on the good side of the chart or the bad. And that's the why. And, as cliche as it is, if this changes one person's life because they listen to Dr. Chris Zaino and they listen to Dr. Cindy Howard today, then you know what? It has value. And the gift in that to give,
Mm.
right, in order to receive is powerful. And that's why we do it.
So you help people really reframe the adversities they'll go through. And when you reframe it, don't you agree? When you reframed your story, you then had the revelation. Like, wow, this was a blessing.
It
This
was
is
a huge
amazing. I
blessing.
got these gifts. And then what people don't, they get the revelation, but what they fail to do is then take the action steps after the revelation. So you got the revelation. Then what we see now is the result of the action steps of the revelation. So
Correct.
sometimes revelation is like they'll make a meme out of it. Here's a good revelation, but the revelation is to then pursue action steps into that revelation. And that's where a lot of change happens.
I live it, right? I live
Yeah.
it. And it's funny because, and funny is the right word, I made cancer fun. And people think I'm nuts. How do you put cancer and fun
Mhm.
without the word not in between
So good.
in the same sentence? And don't get me wrong, I don't ever want to do it again, right? Like, I mean, give me a different experience. That one was great. But if I had the power to go back, right? We always do that retrospectively. If I had the
Mhm.
power to change anything that I would have done, would I have changed anything? And really, the answer is no. I'm so grateful.
So love.
I wouldn't be
No
talking to you
time.
today, quite frankly,
No,
right?
yeah, no time machines. No time machines. So good.
No, no, no,
So
no,
good.
no. We live in that present moment. To your point, so that we can use what we've learned in the present moment to affect our future. Because I really don't know what'll happen a moment or years from now, but I welcome it, good or bad, and we'll make it fun. We'll enjoy the journey. And it really is about that. I mean, we've got, what one life, right? What do they say? You got, what is it? YOLO? You only live once, right?
Yeah.
And for however long that period is, let's use the why to feel amazing about it instead of the what's and the how. I'm with you, Chris. I love this. We're in a great profession. We're facilitating a lot of help to a lot of good people. And, the stories are what make the difference. It's really fun. Let's talk about men. I want to talk about men and vitality a little bit. I live in this space of women's health, and we're always talking about women and how they can be, ambitious and vivacious in their life. But, sometimes I think men kind of get lost in this, right? We have this expectation of men being strong and powerful and almighty and, nothing knocks you down. And sometimes that's actually really pretty far from the truth. So let's help some of the men out there to understand that sometimes it's okay to not feel all those things. And how do we get there?
Well, absolutely correct. So this whole thing with the Stallion Project came out when, I went through my first, just only had one divorce, and it was amicable. I always have to say that. Like, Whitney's great. And so now I find myself 41, 42. Now I got to get back in the game. There's this thing called Tinder. There's all this stuff. Like, I didn't know, like all this stuff going on. So as a man, it's like, how do I raise the value of who I am? Because a lot of guys, they want this woman or that woman but they never ask the question, well, who do I have to become? What value do I have to bring? It's amazing. We want all this shit, but here, like, well, what am I doing to deserve that? So I realized I must raise the value of who I am, create different experiences, do all these things to attract the type of woman that I desire. I write this whole list of what I wanted and so on. It's like, well, who's the man I have to become to do that? So the Stallion Project was not becoming a guy who just wants to look good, pound good, feel good. It's like, no, how do I become the man that allows a woman to feel safe in her femininity and allow her to phoenix and be the most powerful version of herself? So a lot of guys, I started to notice, like, they have a lot of vices and look to vices and they look to porn, and they look to all these other things, and they're just getting educated in the wrong way. So in order to accomplish that, I realized there was several pillars a man had to look in his 40s in order to optimize who he was. And the first one is always body. If a man's feeling depressed or like this, like, the body is the quickest way to change the state of someone. And I noticed with the body over 40, it's like we have to optimize the chemistry. So yes, I was a chiropractor and I adjusted, but sometimes we need to make sure the chemistry is optimized. So how are the hormones? How are the things going on? Do they need peptides? So optimize that, because as a man, how I feel determines what I think, and what I think determines my actions. So a lot of times for females and men, when your hormones are off, you could be in crazy town and not know it. That's how wicked hormones are. Like, you could be out of your mind and not know it. And here I'm eating good, I'm exercising, I'm reading my affirmations. How come I feel sad? So when Dr. Cindy, when I tell you I feel fill in the blank, I feel empathetic, I feel indifferent, I feel depressed, I feel sad, I feel angry, all I'm telling you is the vibrational state and frequency I'm on. And here, if I want success and I want to attract the one of my dreams, if I want to be successful, if I want to have a great family, that radio station's here. I cannot get there here. So if I'm depressed and just sad, I can't get here. So I'm not getting the right thoughts. I'm not necessarily attracting, but my thoughts are not that of success. So when hormones are optimized, then you'll be able to, like, if it's a hormonal thing, if we optimize the hormones and you think and feel better, you'll actually be, again, resonating at a different level. So body first. And the greatest way to change your state is physical activity and also food. For me, I don't know about you, when I eat good food by God, I feel and function amazing. If I eat garbage, I feel like shit. I feel depressed. I feel sluggish. So it's like food changes my vibration. So wait a second. You mean that if I eat off or eat the wrong food, it could change my vibration? I could block myself from downloads and new ideas and thoughts and creativity? Yes. So we look at the body. The next we look at the brain, so that's the mindset. That's everything you talk about, right? Then we look at the boardroom, right? Business mastery principles. And then we look at the bedroom. So listen, no matter what you want to say, Dr. Cindy, I had stem cell clinics in Mexico and in Dubai. And the number one procedure that guys wanted was dick injections for stem cells and IVs. It's not going anywhere. It's a fact. For some reason, guys think like their unit, there's a primal reptile function about guys and their penises. So I realized like, hey, we got to address this. And the reason why I say bedroom, it's not just to get things to work correctly the way they should, that it tends to go down, because men, ED is actually a form of neuropathy. They're eating poor lifestyle. So there's blood flow, calcification, and nerve issues there. But what I teach men is, so now let's say we get it working the way it should again. Now the other aspect of bedroom is sexual fitness. And this is where we get to teach men, listen, this is how, just like a woman takes care of her face and body, there's sexual fitness things a man can do to make sure things are working correctly, and how to use it correctly, not in a necessary pornographic way that they're taught, but to enable a woman to have an experience where she could feel safe and comfortable, allow her to rest in her femininity because she's out there trying to be masculine because guys are weak. And then she could fully, like I say, Phoenix, and you both could have a soul experience and not just a physical trade-off. So that's all that stuff wrapped in one.
I love it. And I want to hit on that last topic. It's really important to me, actually, because I think, it's actually easy to discuss some of these other things. And most people don't even say the right body part names when they have this conversation, right? And it's been a mantra of mine that sexual health is so important and there's many aspects of it. But like, we've got to stop being embarrassed, right? It's about communication, expressing what you want and need, how things feel, where they're working, where they're not. And not being timid, not only with our partner, but then those that maybe we need outside help from as well. So I love that you bring that to the forefront. In my practice, I always joke women are much more open about it, and then they drag their partners in, and then they have to speak for their partner because they're so afraid to say the words. And I look right at them and I go, you're having trouble getting and maintaining an erection, correct? And it's like they can't even nod their head yes when I even said the words. So, everybody out there, we've got to get past that, right? Practice saying the words, talk to your partners and the people that you trust that you're involved in these relationships with, right? We've got to open up that communication.
And it's like you just said, the guilt and the shame. And Dr. Cindy, so many men have so much guilt and shame. So it could be it cascades into 4 areas. Number one, it could be their body, their guilt and shame that like they let their body go. It could be they feel guilty and shame because they're not where they should be successfully or in business. So they have this guilt, they're not providing. When it comes to business, like they feel bad or where they're at working, they're not making enough money. So guilt and shame. And then relationships, they don't have a balance, or they're working, they feel bad that they weren't there for their kids or present, or, they have sex twice a month or twice every 2 months, and, their wife, they're like roommates, right? So a man carries all this guilt and shame. And then to add on, like they have some weird connection, like I said, that their penis function and sexual function makes them who they are. It's like totally wacky. And you're right, and who are they talking to about it? You think they're going to talk to their wives about it? No, they're not going to talk to their buddies about it unless they're a really, really good friend. And they're sure as hell not going to talk to a doctor to it. So if I could bring some awareness that it's like, hey, listen, like we get it. Like, there's things we could do to get the function there, but there's a functional aspect, there's an emotional aspect, and there's a mental aspect of it. So if we could get men to be, I don't want them to necessarily be open about it. Like you said, like it's open, get rid of that guilt and shame, because once we could I know this, anytime you put something out into the light, it can't survive. Like if I put guilt and shame out into the light, it has no power over me. So I've seen that's been a huge thing of men. And the reason why I do this, and Stallion, when you think about that, really what I'm doing, it's a Trojan horse, no pun intended. It's this. Guys want to look good, feel good, fuck good, right? So that's their thing. So that's what attracts them to this. Then from there, we start having this conversation, the stuff that counts. Like I could care less, like those are the easy things, but let's really talk about the root causes, the guilt, the shame, the childhood triggers. And that's when their life turns around. Like dating your wife every week. I say a man should write a note to his wife, or some type of note or something every single day, because I'm like, the paper cuts have destroyed your marriage. So you could actually start doing things daily. I don't feel like doing it daily. Who cares? Like you do these things daily. And a lot of times wives think they're full of shit. Imagine if all of a sudden your husband's writing you notes, love notes every day, and you're like, he's full of shit. Then you know what? I go but 3 months, 4 months around, they start to turn around because they're building a habit. Like we usually, unfortunately, with our family, we put them to the end. And then when the crisis is, then we try to, rectify it. And usually it's too late. I did that in my last one. So I make sure Monique, she every day she knows she is the queen of my life. She is the woman I live for and the woman I fight for, no matter what. And sometimes, Cindy, I'll stand in front of that whiteboard because I write on a whiteboard. I might stand in front of it for 5 minutes because I'm not inspired to do it. But as long as I show her love, appreciation, and honor, I know the most important relationship in my life, besides myself, is my wife, and then our kids that are my little girl that's going to be here in June. So we got a lot of good things going on.
Oh, I don't even know how to follow that because I think that's just the most beautiful
Yeah.
thing. So I'll tell you what, Dr. Chris Zaino, we're going to take a quick break, leave it with that beautiful sentiment. And then when
Yeah.
we come back, if you're up for it, we're going to do some rapid fire questions that I didn't prep you for. I'm just curious what your
All right, yeah,
answers
let's
are.
do
You
it.
feel up for that?
Hell yeah.
Okay, I can't wait. Everybody stay tuned. We're going to take a quick listen to our sponsors. We are going to be right back with Dr. Chris Zaino. This is your weekly dose of Dr. Cindy, the Positively Altered podcast. Stop. Hit that follow button now and spread the love with Positively Altered. Welcome back. We are with Dr. Chris Zaino, my friend, Mr. America, Mr. Universe, ruler of his household. That's probably not true, right? It's probably a joint event in the
Yes,
household,
it's a joy.
who I think pointed us in some amazing directions on how we can establish our why in the world. But now I want to ask Dr. Chris some really fun questions. You ready?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. Number one, if you weren't Mr. America, but you were actually ruler of the entire universe, who would you trust to drive your chariot?
Monique, my wife.
Oh, perfect. I sort of could have predicted that based on the last segment.
Yeah, she's a way better driver.
Is she? Do you
Yeah.
admit that?
Yeah, I got a little sloppy as I got older. I don't know.
Wow. I get ripped on pretty bad for my driving, so maybe I need to find somebody in my life that'll say that about me. I'm going to look for that in my next chapter. All right, next. If you could change your name, or you had to change your name like we change a password, what would you change your name to?
Richard Strong.
Really?
It would be a poor name for sure. Yeah, Richard
Because
Strong.
then we call you Dick Strong.
Yes, exactly.
Which really
And what's crazy is that I knew that answer immediately.
You have clearly thought about that. See, now I would
Oh,
reverse that name and call you Strong Dick.
yeah, about Strong Richard, but yeah, I'll take either or.
See, now I always wanted to change my last name to Zonka. Do you remember Larry Zonka?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I thought it was a really cool name.
Mm-hmm.
Either that or I had to marry his kid or something, and that didn't work out. So
No, it wouldn't work.
didn't happen. All right. Next, if all animals could be domesticated, what would you pick as your family pet?
A bear,
What kind of bear?
like a small teddy bear, like a small bear, a baby bear.
A baby bear?
Yeah,
Brown
I
bear?
think
Black bear? Polar bear?
black bear, like a grizzly.
A grizzly. And he'd be
Yeah,
like a teddy bear. Would you sleep with him and cuddle him?
in the beginning, and eventually he'd have to have his own bed.
Yeah, the claws get pretty
Well,
voracious.
we could cut them. They're domesticated. We could get
Oh,
those
that's right.
claws
I forgot that we
manicured.
recreated the story.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, the bear. That's good. What food should be considered a breakfast food that is not?
Um, I mean, I'm just an egg guy. That's the only thing when I think of breakfast. I just think of eggs at all times. Steak.
Steak. So would you
I
make eggs a breakfast, lunch, and dinner food then instead?
that's the thing. I have meals, so it's I might have chicken and rice in the morning, or eggs and rice, or beef and rice. I eat meals. I got so out of well, this is brunch food, this is lunch food, this is dinner food. I eat it's the meal, no
See,
matter what
don't
time
you
it is.
think
So
that's weird? These are the things I question in life.
yeah.
Who got to be king of, breakfast that decided these are the foods that we eat between 7 and 9 a.m. in the morning? Where did that come from?
Yeah, I mean, actually, if I had to pick, if you could only have one type of meal, I would eat breakfast all day.
Okay.
Breakfast is the tastiest meal. So yeah, the typical breakfast, I think they're the tastiest.
So are you the guy that goes to the typical pancake house and you get your eggs and your pancakes and your hash browns, or do you like the really weird, cool stuff with quinoa and peppers and
No, 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 no. I would probably get if it was IHOP, I would get a big steak omelet. for sure.
Okay, for $7.99.
Yeah, I mean, if we're at IHOP, I mean, if this is a hypothetical dream, yeah, of course.
Okay. Well, listen, I mean, you don't want to overpay for
No, it's
omelets
amazing.
and
It's like a
skillets and
rolled up
stuff.
newspaper.
All right. Second to last question.
Yeah,
What is your favorite body part and why?
I like legs.
Okay.
Because I think it shows when you see someone with good legs, a woman or a man, there's a lot of freaking hard work that went behind those things.
Yeah. Awesome. And they are hard to work, aren't they?
Shit, they're horrible. Yeah, it sucks.
I know. See, I'm kind of a hamstring girl. I love working hamstrings.
I mean, I always say, I love a pair of legs that make a perfect ass out of themselves,
Well, it does lead right up there, doesn't it? That is perfect. Lastly, and maybe the most important question of the day, what was your favorite thing about doing the podcast today?
Oh, the transparency and the ability to feel comfortable to open up, knowing that there was no judgment, guilt, shame, right or wrong. You know what I mean? A lot of times, like we put things, there's right due to like religion, all this other stuff. We put things into right or wrong. Would you just show like an experience is neither right nor wrong? It's nor good nor evil. It is, and it's what we put into it. It's how we perceive it that changes that story.
I love that. It's a perfect answer.
Yeah.
Dr. Chris Zaino, how do people find you, follow you, hire you, be involved with you, be your best friend? How do we do that?
You just go to Instagram. That's the easiest. It's at Dr. Zaino, DrZaino. There you go. I answered all my stuff. That's me.
Oh, that
One,
was
one,
good.
one location.
Where are you? You speak all over the place. Where are you next?
Well, I'm in Houston, Texas now. I dedicated to do about because Monique's pregnant, so we're having a little girl. So I just decided I do about 36 talks in the Houston area a month. So that's my chapters. I'm just going to speak and teach, and at least for the next 2 years. So I'm here.
Oh my gosh, what an exciting new chapter. And
Mhm.
can't wait to see a picture of the beautiful baby girl. When
Yeah,
is she due?
June 15th. Her name will be Rayma.
Rama? Oh, that's
Yeah, it means
gorgeous.
God inspired word. It's for another podcast. I was in Mexican prison for 21 days. Let's leave you that on a cliffhanger. Great story, amazing, and got like I had the inspired vision that Monique would be my wife, and we would have a girl, and her name would be Rayma,
Oh my
and
gosh.
that's what Rayma means. The inspired, like when you have an inspired thought, that is called Rayma.
Well, I don't know that story, so you've pretty much just secured your spot for an invite back because
Yeah,
now we're going to talk to my producer, Julie, and get you back on because I got to hear that story, Chris.
you'll love it.
All right, we're going to have you back. All right, everybody out there, if you want to learn more about me, please check us out at drcindyspeaks.com or shoot us an email. We'd love to hear from you at hello@drcindyspeaks. Please pick up the book, Positively Altered, Finding Happiness at the Bottom of a Chemo Bag, and make sure you tune in. I will tell you that my favorite thing about the podcast today was same thing, just the connection, the rare, the raw, the transparency. I love having those conversations. So Dr. Chris Zaino, thank you for doing that with me. I hope that everybody out there today, as a result of this podcast, has been left positively altered.